welcome to the International Association of Near-Death Studies. Today we have our speaker, is from Mexico, and her name is Nancy Graham. Before I formally introduce her, let me tell you how I met Nancy. Is that okay? She's like, okay. She's awesome. You're going to have so much fun today. So I met Nancy. We seem like two unlikely pairs, kind of like the odd couple, but we work, don't we? We work when we met. Yes, we work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I met her about, 7 years ago? 7, would you say?
Yeah.
At the Omega Institute. And I was taking, I had owned an ad agency for years and years, 27 years, and also a boutique, and I had gifts like Nancy, and I thought, well, I think I'm a good medium. I knew about this as a child. I was like this, but I never told anyone. So I met Nancy. Is my mic doing well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I met Nancy at the Omega Institute, and I thought, well, I'll go up here and give it a shot. If I suck, I'll just go home. That's what I thought. I didn't even tell you that. So everybody had cars, but Nancy and I did not have cars, and we were on the campus. So there was some kind of strange, not everybody was strange, but a couple people that were doing stuff we didn't particularly jive with. So we decided we would spend the day together. We went to the temple, and we walked up this amazing Buddhist temple at the top, and along the way we would see little surprises like rocks in the formation of love, and people left little love signs on the way. It was so beautiful. And I realized what a beautiful soul she was. And I have to tell you, I don't want to embarrass her, Nancy, but I am going to do it because I'm so proud of her. She, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but Nancy, as far as, she doesn't really come across until she's a practicing medium, but I have to tell you, she gave me one of the best and most detailed readings I've ever had. And these are people I've studied with around the world, and she connects at a higher level, and it's just such a beautiful love vibration. And so since then, I have encouraged her to step out with her near-death experience, and this is one of her first comings out, and I told her that, look, that everybody here welcomes her with love, and to not be nervous, that everybody's just going to love anything that she has to say. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and formally introduce you. Okay? So I'll build you up a little bit, but it's all true. All right. So today our speaker is Nancy Graham. She's a near-death experiencer. She's a psychic medium, an angel artist, author, and channel of angels. Today's topic is on Wings of Angels, Trusting Life After Death. Nancy was 4 years old when she had her near-death experience. She remembers very clearly floating to the ceiling during her emergency surgery, and she began hemorrhaging following a tonsillectomy. Nancy heard the doctor say, "We have a bleeder here," and was lifted to the seat in the lap of what she could only describe of an angel. In a long conversation, which was nonverbal, she was told she must return and trust her mother again, and everything would be okay. Because of her youth, she didn't know that this was an unusual experience, and she would not understand why the nurses and others could not hear her thoughts she was sending while she was in recovery. After all, the angel communicated in that way, and it was much easier, which was mind-to-mind communication, otherwise known as telepathy. Nancy lives her life with a natural kindness, a deep understanding of the oneness of all, and a profound desire to be helpful and to encourage people to see things in all ways. And a little bit about her bio: she has a Master's of Arts degree in studio art. She's taught elementary, college, and senior level. She was awarded a graduate teaching fellowship at a university which sold her work in Michigan, Oregon, and Mexico, where she now lives and has an art studio. For 4 years, she wrote and illustrated a weekly communication called On the Wings of Angels, Letters from Home, which was reported, I love that, that's beautiful, which was reported channeled from her angel. She has also participated in fundraising for higher education and for the arts. In order to better understand herself and her supernatural experience, she studied with German clairvoyant Gunter Benz, Mayan daykeeper Humbert Smin, shamanistic teacher Alberto Valito, medium researcher and afterlife investigator Bob Olson, medium John Holland, and former nun Janet Novahack, and British healer Nick Whitman. In turn, for over 20 years, she has offered her own spiritual teaching and still provides group or private mediumship and psychic sessions upon request. She acknowledges that she has learned from and many, many others that she has encountered in her life, including her loving angels. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Nancy, however you want to do it, and just thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Let's clap and tell her how much we love her. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah?
Yes, you sound fantastic.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about where I am so that you have some context about where I'm speaking from. I'm inside of my studio on the Sea of Cortez, or the Gulf of California, which is and I'm in Bahia de Quino, Sonora. It's about 6 hours south of Tucson. My studio has light coming in up above, and so I hope it doesn't reflect too much for you. Behind me, I have some of my paintings, which I'll talk more about later. But right now, I'm going to show you where I am. It'll just take a second here to get a few photos up for you so you can see where I am here. Okay. I'm on the bay, a big horseshoe-shaped bay. We have beautiful sunsets. This is just a half block from me a couple nights ago. So the color is amazing. Behind me, we have a desert and mountains. And this all really inspires my work. Okay. Sorry, I'm just sort of getting used to using the photos again. Well, north of us, there's an indigenous tribe called the Seri, or the Comcock. And that's just another little piece of where I am. And I'm going to talk more about that later, because I've gotten to know those people and some of the shaman that are from that tribe. What I believe at this point in my life is that we are all one. We're all part of each other. And it's something that just comes through me and is part of me. The reason I know that is I've been there and I've felt it. I have a background in Christianity because I was raised in the Presbyterian church. My father was the assistant to the minister, so I had a pretty strong connection to the church. The other thing that's a part of me that has actually, and this may be true for some of you, has caused some conflict in my life is kindness. I just tend to be really kind, and it's like I can't help it. I've had people tell me, I've had a boss told me one time, you're too kind and everybody likes you. Well, I didn't quite know what to say back, but I've had that told to me by many people. It's a funny thing to think of as a problem, but I can't help it. Is there anybody else here that has that sort of issue going on, that people tell them they're too kind? No?
Oh, I do most of the time. Most of the time.
Not surprising.
I have delayed reactions sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Presbyterian, I didn't know we have so many things in common. Me too.
Oh, it is Presbyterian. Oh, yeah. Tamara and I are constantly finding out, oh my gosh, you have that in common.
Yeah, it's so funny because we seem so opposite, but we keep finding things. So anyway, yes.
Yeah. Not opposite, I think, just different.
Very much so,
different.
yes.
Yeah. So the question is, how did I get this way? And I wonder that myself. Was I born like this? Was it how I was raised? Or did it have a lot to do with the near-death experience I had when I was 4 years old? I think it probably did. I was not told where we were going. My mother just said, we're going for a ride. And I ended up in the hospital until I was 50 years old, I could still smell ether from having that surgery. I started bleeding after the surgery when I was in my bed, so they rushed me back to the operating room. I found myself floating above a man over his left-hand shoulder, and he said, "We have a bleeder here." When I looked down, I saw this tiny little person lying with sheets over them. It didn't occur to me that that was me. It was just a tiny little person lying there, and I thought, oh, the poor little thing. I was then lifted, or I moved somehow up to another place. I was up above, and it was dark navy blue and warm. And from there ended up in the lap of what I remember as a person, but there was no face. It was just a lap I was sitting in. Now I realized it was likely what we call an angel. I wanted to look over, and it felt male to me, so I'll just use that term, but I wanted to look over his shoulder. I wanted to go past behind him, and he wouldn't let me. We had a long conversation, but the only part I remember is, you need to go back. Your mother really will take care of you. The rest of what I was told, or the rest of what I learned, I believe just was absorbed into me, as opposed to remembering any particular teachings. It was just sort of absorbed into my heart. When I woke up, like Tamara said, I tried talking to the nurses because I wanted a pillow, but they would not understand me. I was trying to talk to them the way this angel had spoken to me, and I was angry that they didn't understand me. When I got home, the same thing happened. People kept trying to talk to me. I kept trying to talk back to them, and I could tell what they were feeling, thinking, what was going on in their lives. My aunt tried to get me to eat ice cream, and I refused, and I was upset with her. I was young enough to not understand that people can have things going on in their lives, and they're not necessarily going to tell you about it. But I could tell what was going on in her life, that there were a lot of problems, that things were really horrible for her right now. And I felt betrayed because she wouldn't let me know that, but I could feel it. So for a long time, I wasn't speaking to anybody. It was like I knew too much, or could feel too much. And so it made it harder for me to communicate to people. I spent a lot of time by myself when I was young. I didn't feel necessarily understood. I never spoke about my experience to my parents or anyone because I didn't know that it was unusual. I didn't have a context for that at all. When it wasn't until I was in my 30s, and so I went through my life from a young child through high school, through college, thinking, I wish I could just be normal. Because I would watch other people my age interacting and having experiences, and I just felt like it was a jump rope that was going round and round and round that I couldn't jump into. I just couldn't do it. I felt like I was halfway in and halfway out of reality. When I got into my 30s, I was living in Michigan at the time, and I moved to Oregon. While I was in Oregon, I saw a counselor for depression. And at one point she said, I'm bringing in a psychic to meet with you because I've done everything I can for you, and I don't know what's wrong. So the next time I went in, there was a man named Gunther Benz. He's German, he's clairvoyant. And he sat down in front of me and closed his eyes, opened them back up again and said, there's nothing wrong with her. She's just really, really psychic. And then he proceeded to ask me if I sometimes felt like I wasn't completely in my body, if I would be driving and all of a sudden be somewhere and not know how I'd gotten there. Yeah, that was pretty much the case. So I started studying with him, and he taught me how to control it. He taught me a lot about grounding. I worked with a group of people, and we would do readings for each other. At one point, he finally told me, you need to start doing readings for people and charge them. Otherwise, you'll get taken advantage of. You're just too good. So my life began to fall apart because I was moving into another part of myself and being more present here and learning how to share what I just sort of naturally have inside of me with the rest of those around me. I lost my job at where I was working at the university. I lost my job, and I began doing readings for people. I laid down on my bed one night, just before I started doing readings, I laid down on my bed one night, put my arms out and said, help me help people. I don't know where that came from. It just a part of me. And it felt so good to be able to just finally say that. What I heard in my head then was, start keeping a journal, start tonight. Well, this is not something I tell very many people, but I'm pretty sure you will all understand. For the next 3 years, every time I laid down at night to go to sleep, it was like I plugged into an electric socket. And I had electricity come through the top of my head, down through my body, out my feet to the point where my toes pointed like this. And I would hear songs, I would hear music. I would have a lot of movement, which was on both sides. So if one arm moved, the other arm moved the same way. I finally had to ask it to calm down because I wasn't getting much sleep. And what I know was happening was that I was being taught. There was information and adjustments taking place in my system. Fortunately, I had the time to let that all happen to me. I knew that what it was were angels that were with me. They were family. They were extremely familiar to me. I heard messages all the time. It helped me to trust myself and to help me to help other people. So I began doing readings for people. I began having classes in my home, and I began writing what you might call a newsletter, where every week I would just sit down and ask, what do people most need to know right now? And that went on from 1995 from 1994 to 1998. So I have a lot of material and I'll show you some of it. During this time, I did do some artwork. Let me show you a little bit. Sorry, here again, I'm going to go into my photos and show you some. Okay. So this is a drawing that I did actually for my master's thesis while I was in college in the 70s. And this I didn't know at the time what I was drawing. It was just coming through me. But these are, to me, the angels that are with me. We see them as people with wings. I see and feel them as kind of an enveloping energy that can change shape and float and move in and out in ways that we really can't move. And this is an example of the newsletter that I did for the 4 years. The back pages always had some really significant drawings on them and a really significant final message. And I want to read one of them to you from, not this one, but from another newsletter that I ran across today that I think is really interesting and really applies to near-death experience. You know, we wonder, as near-death experiencers, what kind of effect do we have on others? Do we really need to do anything? Well, this particular writing was about doorways. There are those among you who have traveled out of the body and beyond the conscious mind. They have returned carrying information and vibration. They've been shown a place beyond words themselves and remember its resonance. They each carry a piece of this place inside of them. They carry with them something like a doorway which you may enter if you wish. How do you find these people? You need not look. You will know them. You will feel it. You will not have to ask. The door within your own heart is opened and you are guided with love. The place beyond words is carried in their hearts. Your connection with them helps to activate a certain light and love inside of you. You return and find that you were never gone. I think it's interesting that I just ran across that this morning before I'm to talk to you, because I hadn't thought of it that way. But I have had people tell me that when they come to my house, they can feel the energy change. They feel like a sense of oneness around them. When I was going through what I call like an awakening in my 30s to sort of readjust to help people, I had a lot of other experiences. In terms of the energy, I just want to share one of them with you because it validates for me the electricity that I said was going through me at night. I couldn't help but wonder, is there something wrong with my body? Is there some sort of neurological thing going on? Well, I went to a workshop one time and we stayed overnight. In the middle of the night, I felt something hitting the back of my neck. Instead of coming through the top of my head, I felt the electricity hitting the back of my neck. So I reached up, put my hand there, and it started hitting the back of my hand. To me, that was confirmation that it was coming from outside of me, not something going on that was neurological. I had a second near-death experience. I believe that this one was to adjust me and put me on the right path again. I had gotten involved in a relationship that was not good for me, and I had stopped doing the newsletter. I had pretty much stopped doing readings, and I went in for some surgery, and in the recovery room, I stopped breathing. I woke up to them slamming on my chest, telling me to breathe, and thinking, nah. It was such a calm place. I didn't want to come back, but I did. I came back through my head. I remember just coming back through my head. I don't remember anything happening consciously while I was out. What I believe was that it was, like I said, an adjustment for me to remind me, like, look, you got stuff to do. It wasn't long after that I found myself standing outside my house saying, I've got more to do. This can't be the rest of my life. And I went through 2 to 3 years of change where I ended up here in Mexico. My mother died during that time. And when I went to see her, I put my hands over her in the ER, and the electricity came again through my head, out my hands, and was going into her. My sister came in and I said, feel under my hands, what's going on? And she could feel it too. So I guess I needed all that confirmation in order to get me to the point where I was willing to really put myself out there and help people. I started, like Tamara, doing some study in mediumship, and found that, well, I'd already been doing it, but found that I was actually had healing energy that I could share with people too. I did do some neurological testing because I was having a hard time with memory, and I thought, what the heck, is going on? The neurological testing showed that I actually have a really high IQ. And I have a tendency to think that that comes from the near-death experiences as well. Because what it is an ability to see things differently, an ability to see things with a much broader perspective, to be able to see things all at once and come to, a realization about it quickly. What I do now is I have like I said, like Tamara said, I have an art studio here in Mexico. I'll show you some of the work I've done since I've been here. The indigenous connection has been strong, and I want to tell you a bit about that. There is a Seri community, or Comcock community, north of us. It's a group of indigenous people who almost went through extinction, but have come back. They have a really beautiful language that's unique. There's nothing else like it. And I met a young man when I went to a event at one point here, and he came up to me and he said, "We're connected." And he proceeded to give me a reading, to tell me, he said, "You can see everything." I said, "Yeah, I could see it." We did some artwork together. This is a piece of artwork that I did for him and for a piece of poetry that he wrote about how the community of Seris use maps. You know how we have maps, you can unfold them, you could get them now online, and you literally follow the lines to get where you need to go. They have songs. So their songs hold the maps, they sing the songs, and that's how they find their way. It's something that we submitted to an art show together. These are, well, I sat next to the head of the Comcock community one day. These ceremonial ribbons were out front, and I did a little drawing of that. That's just to give you some context. The water is the bay in front of their community. What looks like mountains behind, that's the largest island in Mexico. And that's where they used to live. They had a primitive lifestyle on that island. Now they live just off of it. When I first saw you, I felt something on my back like wings. So we meet people every now and then that help us to understand who we are and sort of help us along the way to share what we have. I want to talk a little bit what I do now. I missed showing you some drawings, so I'm going to go back and show you some drawings of at different points in my life, this actually will be an okay way to do it because you'll be able to see them in sequence. So the first ones I'll show you are when I was in a difficult situation and how I came out of that, and then what I am doing now. Okay. So while I was living a life in a marriage that wasn't all that great for me, I escaped into drawing. I was working with flowers. So I did a lot of drawings that have a whimsical flow to them, which to me is part of the energy that I brought back with me. When I began to realize what was going on, the drawings that I was doing changed, and they were to help me understand what was happening and learn how to get out. This represents me being kind of hidden away, but I had what I needed to have in order to get out, and I had help from the angels to help me make my way. I began to see again. This is called seeing the Goldfinch. So it's a connection with nature, connection with oneness, really. We're all connected. And here's the connection with the Goldfinch. What I see is so beautiful. So there I am back on the other side again and open to the work. So what I'm doing now, let me show you what I'm doing now. I do a lot of artwork in the studio. And of course, it's very, because of where I am, it's informed by where I am. Okay, so this is what I'm doing now, very whimsical. This is underwater. This one's been sold to someone in Mexico City. So my artwork, there can be at times angels in the artwork, or at times it's just plain whimsical connection with life here. I have found that what I need to do is be grounded, be fully present here. And the work helps me to knit together the beyond, for lack of a better word, and the present. Here are some of the angels. This is what you see behind me when I'm talking. The one on the far right's already been sold, but the one on the left is the angel of the playa, or the angel of the beach. The one in the middle is the angel over the bay. So it's her at night floating over the bay. And the last one is the angel of the desert. The angel of the beach, the bay, the desert. And this is the most recent one that I've finished. Just another whimsical underwater. And for me, it's like a grounding meditation to do this work. What I also do is, when I do readings for people, I will do a drawing for them quite often. And I'm going to show you an example of one of those. And I'm also going to show you something that I'm developing. Whoops, sorry folks, I hit the wrong button and canceled it instead of, okay. So I do readings for people. Quite often there will be a drawing that goes with it. Here we go. Here's an example of one of the drawings I did for somebody. This was someone who was going through some really severe depression. We are all a piece of the whole, all that is. Kindness to self. She had some slippers that were had flowers on them. Be free to be who you are. Know you are loved. So this is just an example. They can really vary depending upon who the person is, but I wanted you to see what can come up. These are something that I've been using in readings lately, which are kind of fun. I call them message stones. I have found them here in the mountains. It's markings of minerals on the stones. And I truly feel that when I look down and see one, it's a message I'm being given from all that is, really. I have a hard time saying the other side because to me it's all one big flow, and we are here stuck in the, not stuck, but we are, we're experiencing the option right now of being in a body and being in a place where things are more concrete. And in doing that, we can take upon ourselves the ability to share with others, to help them see that there's more than just what meets the eye. That was a channel message, by the way. It was just kind of came through. I'm working on a workshop right now called New Generation of Healers, because I want to work with younger people who are learning and curious and just beginning to experience what I experienced years ago, although things are constantly changing, so it's not exactly the way it used to be, the way it was for me. But so that's something that I'm developing and working on. I want to ask if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me about what happened for me, about what I'm doing. I tend not to promote myself, but I do have some Facebook pages. If you'd like to, I'll give that information to Tamara, and she can give it to you so that you can.
You can say it here. You can tell people. Do you guys
Okay.
want to write it down, or do you have a piece of paper they can also take a picture of?
Yeah. Let's see.
Right. Everybody likes taking pictures. I've been taking pictures of your artwork too, so they're beautiful. Oh, okay. Beautiful. Yeah. Very beautiful.
I've sold a lot of it here. I would have showed you more, but so much of it is gone. But
photograph it before you sell it.
Yeah, right.
You know, or you could sell the prints too. You know, you sell the original and then the prints.
Yeah, I've been so much to myself so often that I haven't.
I know. Well, now
done much promoting.
This is your coming out debut. How do you like that?
Right.
I'm saying you're great. She's great. So, do you have a piece of paper they can show, or you want to tell them how they can get in touch with you, or have questions, or want artwork, or readings, or whatever?
Well, let me give you. I will give you my email address, and I will. Okay. If you're on Facebook, you can look me up by that. Okay. My email address is my name, all lowercase, Nancy Jo, Nancy Jograham.
So Nancy Jogram?
At iCloud.com. And I have an artist Facebook page, Nancy Jogram Artist. And I also have a Facebook page called On Wings of Angels, Letters from Home. That I'm beginning to put some of the writings from the newsletter from years ago, because it's still relevant today, and there are people that wanted me to share it. So there is that as well. I also have this is a little bit political, so I have a website called No Walls Between Friends, Amigos Sin Muros, because I'm here in Mexico, and to me it's important. But that's something, if you're interested in that sort of thing, nowallsbetweenfriends.com.
Great. Does everybody get that? Do you questions? You got it all down? Everybody's texting very quickly all your information. So that sounds good. Let me open this up. Graham, like graham cookies. Graham.
Like crackers.
Graham.
Yeah.
Like graham crackers. You know, when you're a little kid, you ate the graham crackers. No, not Mary Jo. Nancy Jo. Nancy Jo Graham. Okay. And I'm going to open up for questions just about anything that you want to ask Nancy. I thought that was pretty candid in your journey. And the thing is, the thing about near-death experience is that you're still processing this. And it's funny, this is different than someone that would have a vision or a dream, because near-death experience is a lot more vivid, and you can recall it like it was yesterday, but it was so long ago, and you know that it's pivotal, and it's like there's something within you that says don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, and that we all are part of something bigger. But it's a process, right? I mean, you're different. I mean, everybody's developing, of course, but I would say that, you know, a lot of times people look at near-death experiencers like they have all the answers. And and that's not true. I mean, we're still developing. We're still, right? We're still trying
absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, it was an infusion. It wasn't a story. It wasn't a teaching. It was an infusion into me of oneness. And it's just, I can't be anything else.
Right. And trying to, we do live in a world that's a dichotomy, so it's difficult sometimes. All right, let's go to questions. Oh, we got a question.
One thing.
Right, quick thing. Okay, go ahead. They did
tell me before, while I was sitting here and people were just milling around, and what I heard was there's so much kindness in the room.
Oh.
Just so much kindness in the room. And that's something I haven't really heard before. I mean, I've never been told that before about a group. So I think you should all take that to heart. You know, it's just a lot of kindness in that room.
Oh, that's so sweet. I wish you could see our group.
I can see the backs of everybody's heads.
Oh, okay. Well, can you turn around and wave to her? Let her see your face. Actually, we can't, because she can see you. So
yeah.
And everybody's saying, yes, we are kind. Yeah. When you said that, everybody was nodding their head, going, yes, we are very kind. It was because I was looking at everybody. They're going, yeah, we are. That's so funny. Everybody owned that one. That's very funny. All right. So why don't we do this, Nancy? Why don't we open a couple questions, and then, not to put you on the spot, look, we know each other.
Yeah.
We'll just flow with it, whatever. But if you want to relax and see if there's any messages, or if somebody has a question spiritually, then we can just open it up. I mean, we have time. We can have fun with this, right? That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I'd like to do
that. For that?
Yeah, that's
you
good.
Got questions?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right, first question.
I was just wondering, when you do a reading for someone, you usually tell them what's going on presently in their life, or what they can expect in their future, or?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Because it is a little bit different with me. I always tell people that what I'm constantly doing is asking what you most need to know right now consciously for your highest good. So I find that a lot of what comes through for people is helping people understand themselves better and understand their lives better. There are sometimes hints about the future, but it's like you know, a garage door when it comes down and there's a little light underneath. I can see sometimes underneath the door, the light on the other side, I can see the level at which the potential is for things to happen, but things are constantly changing. So the energy can shift, and I won't tell you anything that isn't highly possible, you know, in terms of coming up next, because things are constantly changing. Just by being in a session, in a reading, it can open things up so that things really start to shift. And it isn't going to necessarily be the same when you leave as when you came in and when I was speaking to you.
Did I answer that, sort of? Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you, Nancy and I have read each other a few times. I've read with people all over the world internationally. What I like about Nancy is she goes a layer deeper like I do. We go deeper, don't we? And we look at, we go deep. But it's not really about, I hate the word fortune telling. It's not really that. Let me look here at you here. It's not really that. It's more, I think, to even add to that. It's about, because I know we feel the same about this. It's about looking at your highest good and where you are right now and possible options and what can help you on your journey. Wouldn't that be a good way to say it? And it's not always what you want to hear, but it's always good. It may be better than you thought, you know, right? Is that good?
Yeah, it really gets to the core, you know, what's been in your way, what's holding you back, what's your potential that you've been ignoring, you know, for a while. So it's almost always, the response is almost always, oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
But sometimes you need to hear it.
Usually, they're very, I think so. I've read with Nancy and she's read with, I'm just telling, can I say this real quick, Nancy? When I'm with
I didn't.
it's a download. It's a download.
Oh,
So we're not really from me to you. It's a download from heaven. So explain that.
Yeah. Well, I mostly hear the information or just have it come through me. And it isn't right. It isn't my personality talking to you. It's my connection with them as family and bringing to you the information. So sometimes I'll see pictures and I'll explain that. Sometimes I'll just feel it. I'll feel what you're feeling or what, you know, someone in your life has been feeling. But it's not, I won't sometimes, quite often, not remember what I've given you because it wasn't my information. It's coming through for you and to you, not to me. So I always encourage people, if you have a question about anything that's been said, ask me now. Don't wait until a couple weeks from now and say, you know that thing you said, you know, because it's your information and I'm not gonna remember it.
She's channeling it. Same with me. I read people. I have no idea what I told them. They'll say, remember? I'm going, no, I don't remember. Sometimes they'll say, remember you said my mom? I'm like, yeah, vaguely, because it's not her personality to you. It's really from the other side, that connection. So we have a question over here. Mark, go ahead.
Hey, Nancy, it's Mark Brooks.
Yay.
Hi. I enjoyed your stories about the Indian tribe that you were talking to, and I wondered if you had any other stories that you might like to share. And I enjoyed the pictures, too. The pictures were gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Their language is interesting because they will have a word that is a whole concept, whereas we will call an eagle an eagle. Their word for the eagle is, I'm just making this one up, I don't know, but bird who flies high and dips low and carries fish in his mouth. You know, but it's one word, it's a whole concept. They're very much aligned with oneness, that everything is connected, that life and death and animals and people and the water, and just like you hear about other indigenous tribes, it's and I can identify with that so strongly when I talk with him. It's so much easier for me to feel like myself, because there's a sense of, not just a sense of, but there's a knowing of something larger than what we experience in a physical structure on the earth the way we do. It's a gift to us to be here, but we also get wisps of what's beyond, and we get feelings of oneness that come over us, and sometimes it's greater for one person than another. Those who have a greater sense of oneness about them are those who have been connected for a long time, so that when you were born, you came in with it, or when you were a child, you experienced things that were unusual, and you let it in rather than keeping it out. We all have the option of experiencing those things while we're here on the physical plane. But as we grow older, we become more blocked. We become more energetically reflective, so that because we've learned to keep things out, we've learned to sort of protect ourselves out of a sense of lack. That if we have interference with what's inside of us, something bad might happen. So this is true in some circumstances. But it overflows into those times when we could be taking in the oneness or taking in the love of a higher realm. So it's important. What they're saying is that it's important for you to remain grounded in the physical. When you're kind of halfway in and halfway out, it's harder for you to take it in, actually. They're not going to give you what you need in spiritual energy if you're not grounded. If you're grounded and in the world and present fully, it's easier for you to take it in. So that's an important concept for you, especially everybody in the room, because the kindness that you have in your heart, that you exhibit quite often, sometimes takes you out of reality, so to speak. There's a feeling that in order to be fully kind, you need to connect to something higher. So you take yourself a little bit out of the present reality in order to use the kindness, but it's more important to bring it through and ground it than to go to it and try to act from there. Does that make sense?
So I like.
I'm going to show you one thing here.
Okay. Okay, you're going to share the camera?
I'm going to share the camera. Just one thing here.
Okay.
This is a Greek word, and I think it really summarizes up what we do, Tamara, what you and I do, what we all do. It's infused. It's just like the doorway opening and being able to bring through the light that we were so connected with when we were out of our body. It all comes through in everything we do.
I agree. And also, like, even with your art, but I think that as you know, as I've said it before, that who we are and what we do is a self-expression of God flowing through us. You can call that name God to the divine or the one or the source, but the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
So, all right, that sounds good.
And then, thank you for sharing your love and your light. Did people like that today? Yeah? So, okay, come on, clap a little louder. This is on video. Thank you. Yay! Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much for
You're
being
very
our
welcome.
speaker today. I think that you've enlightened us on as far as your perspective on life after your near-death experience, as well as where you stand now, how you're moving through that, and it's a process, like we all are moving through things, right? And then how you were kind enough to share thoughts with different people here that you had about their life that might support them as they move forward. And you got to share this. This is her first time really coming out about her near-death experience and so forth. And I really commend Nancy for her courage in doing so, because it was joyful, wasn't it? Very joyful. So you need to share your joy, as we all need to share our joy. So thank you for being a speaker at IANDS Charlotte. And you have the information on how to get a hold of Nancy Jo Graham. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you. And
Yeah. No, go ahead, Nancy.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, with the message they had for everybody
The whole
before we
group.
started, I wrote down, "Be the spirit we are in your hearts."
Ooh, be the spirit we are in our heart. See, you should do that and put a painting, like with a painting. It's beautiful. You know, well, Nami was here last time. He would do a painting and then he would write something. There you go. That's it. I love it. That's it. That's awesome. Well, look, thank you so much. We'll be talking later, and I'll talk to you when I get back from my disco-infused cruise.
yeah.
All right. Okay, love you, Nancy. Thank you so much. Kisses.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.